explain and then we can get started. She's that way? Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the Beauty Boost Cleveland event. I'm going to take this down. I'm vaccinated, so I'm not going to call. Thank you guys for being here. I am Lindsay. I am the co-founder of the Cleveland Beauty Boost. Is this anyone's first event with us? Thank you guys for being here, first and foremost. If this is your first event, which is literally like the whole second row, we are a space dedicated to empowering women, making them feel healthy, beautiful, and just empowered. Myself and one of my best friends in Columbus started this 6 years ago, not in Cleveland. She left her corporate job before I did in 2015 to start the Beauty Boost full time. We both teach yoga as well. I left my corporate job in 2018, and that is when we launched Cleveland. I am originally from Cleveland, but I live in the Columbus area. And this is one of my favorite events because you never know what these women behind me are going to say. So we are going to get real, we are going to get raw. There might be tears, whether it's from them or you guys in the audience. Sarah is our podcaster for tonight, all the way at the end in the pink chair. She is going to be leading the discussion. I am not going to introduce our panelists. I'm going to allow them to do that themselves. We will, at the last 10 minutes or so, allow you guys to ask questions. So feel free, it can be to the entire panel, or if there's someone you're like, oh my God, I just connected with her on a different level, you can ask to one person specifically and completely call them out. It's totally okay. They don't know if they're ready for that because I just put them on the spot, but that is how we're gonna do things tonight. We are at Collab Lakewood. If you haven't been here, Maureen is somewhere, so eventually I will have her. Okay, you walked away. So this is Maureen, so give a little snippet of where we are, how this got started. When it got started.
Stop. I'm sorry that I can't.
Oh, it's fine.
I really want to stand.
It's like kind of awkward.
Yeah. So thank you guys for coming. If we haven't met, I'm so happy to meet you. My name is Maureen Koopman, and this is my space. Evenings and weekends, we do things like this. If you have any ideas or suggestions, we would love to hear them. This makes me so happy, like having everyone here and hanging out. And then during the week, we are a co-working space. So you're welcome to pop in, grab a desk, get your best work done, and meet all other amazing people. So thank you so much for coming. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you to Lindsay for doing this here, and all the beautiful flowers are from Megan next door, so make sure you check them out.
Yeah, so definitely we have vendors over here afterwards. Megan's shop is one of them, so everyone please leave the flowers. It is not a requirement, but just please do because it makes everyone happy. Slit will also be there with jewelry if you haven't seen them. Dana's, correct me, Everyday Designs. Yes! Is over there as well. Dana and I know each other. And then Inspire Chiropractic, Sarah and Dr. Melissa are here from there. So Melissa's on the panel, but Sarah will be over there as well. They are amazing. We have worked with them from the beginning, so they are still with us. So that means a positive thing. And then, I know I'm probably forgetting someone. Hallie, are you in here? She's not yet, but we have the wine from One Hope with Hallie. And then treats as always from the amazing Michelle of Sweet Revolutions. Am I forgetting anybody? Oh, the Med Spa. Are they in here right now? No, probably getting their wine. They are also over there. They will be doing, I don't know what they're doing today, but they normally do facials. I just told them not to do them today because everyone's probably had their face ready. So a surprise over there and little giveaways on the way out. But we're going to do the panel for about an hour, ask the questions, and then feel free to have fun, do whatever, mingle, meet people, all the jazz. If you don't have wine, always feel free to go get it. And then don't feel shy. If you're hungry, get treats. It's literally like a conversation with your best friends, so don't feel like you can't get up and go to the bathroom. This isn't school. You can get food, you can get drinks. If you want to leave, you can leave. But like, don't feel like you have to be glued to your chair. Other than that, I'm going to hand it over to the amazing Sarah, and she's going to take it from there.
Hi everybody, I'm Sarah Halko. I am so excited to be with people. I'm super excited and I'm glad that we're all here. It's been a year and I don't know about the rest of you, but this has been an insane year for me. I lost my job last March and I I have decided I don't want to go back to corporate. I am trying to pivot and move forward, and it's been a lot of hurdles and roadblocks, and it's been very, very trying. But in my time, what I do is I usually blog, podcast, talk about all the big things. And I'm so excited to have this great panel of women here to talk about these big things that I know are really going to help us. So I would like, before we begin here, if we could just go through and each of you introduce yourselves and what you do, who you are, tell us something. Does this start with you?
Yeah, I shouldn't have sat next to you. Just don't make me first for everything.
I'm Claudia. I'm a business coach. I'm a transplant from the Northeast, and I've made my home here in Cleveland, so thank all of you for making me feel at home. It's mostly because of women like all of you here that I found my community here and feel like really rooted in this community, so especially you. Like I said, I'm a business coach, and I help female entrepreneurs build online businesses, primarily through Instagram, and heal the relationship with money, because we all have a little bit of baggage there, through the vehicle of online entrepreneurship. I feel like I should
I'm Tammy Lyons. I own Inner Bliss Yoga Studios and also the co-founder of Believe in CLE, a large-scale yoga celebration of our city that we launched 8 years ago. We missed our event last summer and looking forward to hopefully bringing it back this year. And I am devoted to the city. I love to talk to other women who are starting businesses, running businesses, dealing with the highs and the lows and the really cool stuff, and then the really difficult stuff that comes with owning a business. So I'm grateful to be here and hopefully can be of some service. Thank you.
Okay, hi. I'm Megan. I own Blossom Cleveland, which if you haven't been over yet, it's next door. That was our first location. We recently opened another in Shaker Heights in Van Aiken. It's beautiful. It is. Oh, we can talk about that if you want. It's an adventure being an entrepreneur, but I love it. I'm somewhat of a serial entrepreneur. And I am an introvert actually, but I love humans. So I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to see all your faces, and thanks.
Hi, I'm Haley. I'm the founder of the Cleveland Bucket List, and my fun fact is I was actually voted most likely to never come back to Cleveland in high school. So somehow I landed here and started the Cleveland Bucket List because I realized how cool it is, and I wanted to share that with everyone, so that's it.
My name is Eamon. I'm also a serial entrepreneur. I have 3 different businesses. I'm a Canadian. I've now been here for 3 years. I work in the fashion industry as an influencer, and I have, an event production company, so we do large-scale high-end fashion shows, and we'll be doing our first one this July in Cleveland.
Hi, my name is Rachel Serino. I am the owner of Green Bee Nutrition and Wellness. So I'm a registered dietitian by trade, and also do health coaching full-time, but then I started my business part-time several years ago, and I'm also a yoga instructor. And I've kind of blended the two to help people with healing that relationship with their body and with food, so kind of getting out of that yo-yo dieting cycle. And learning how to eat mindfully and enjoy food, without like the restrictions and following food rules and whatnot. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk with all of you and probably learn from all of you as well.
My name is Faith Huber, and I am the founder of Chagrin Glam Gal. I founded it about 1.5 years ago on my birthday, which is November 6th. So it's a good way to remember the anniversary of my blog. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't remember it. But I started the blog up. It's a lifestyle and fashion blog, and I'm mostly on Instagram, and I'm branching out in the other social media platforms because you have to these days, right? And I found it because I was getting so burnt out from working in corporate America, And I needed an outlet, I needed a creative outlet, a way to express myself, who I am, and a safe place to do it. And so that's why I founded it, and it's been so much fun ever since then. And recently, I actually hired 2 interns recently, so it's been so much fun having them. They are a lifesaver, they truly are. They like run my life. So it's been wonderful, and we're going to be branching off and doing some really interesting things here pretty soon. So happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Dr. Melissa Manila. So I'm over right down the road 2 seconds away at Inspired Chiropractic, and I'm a chiropractor, functional medicine practitioner, and acupuncturist. So if any of you guys are familiar with chiropractic, first of all, the priority of that is getting your body in tip-top shape for movement. And basically that's like our mission there, is to have people move freely throughout their lives and be inspired with movement and live just a healthy life with a really high functioning body, as I'm saying this with a and then functional medicine, if you guys are familiar with that, that's getting to the root cause of illness through, you know, gut and hormones and blood and just the nitty-gritty of internal medicine. It's kind of the modern day medicine. It's preventing things before they get bad, and even if they get bad, we can still help. And then acupuncture is just mind-blowing, and if you guys have questions about that, acupuncture, that's a whole other thing. That's what I do. That's all.
Great. Well, I'm so glad you're all here, and I wrote out some questions, real brain busters. I hope you guys are ready. We don't need to go in order. Some of these you might need to think about if you don't have something off the top of your head, so just push someone else to go before you if you need more time. So the first thing we'll get into, I know it's so great to be in a room full of people, and maybe for some of you, this is the most people you've seen in a very long time in person. So if you could tell me, ladies, what is a challenge that you faced during the pandemic? What did you learn? What did it teach you? Because I think something came up for all of us. So what was it?
I'll go first. So for me, I had already started my business, but I wasn't quite making enough money to sustain myself. And so a lot of women here are serial entrepreneurs. I'm like a serial hustler, anything that I could get my hands on, because I had a real scarcity mindset. So I was I'm not going to make enough in this avenue. I need 5 other things to have income coming in. So I was driving people's kids to school and after school programs at 6 a.m. And I also do freelance brand photography. So everything that I was doing besides my business was very people to people. So when the pandemic hit, I lost a lot of contracts and I was down to my business, and I kind of faced so when am I going to just bet on myself and just do the thing instead of splitting my time in all these other ways? And also I didn't understand unemployment, to be honest. I looked at it, it was crazy confusing, especially for self-employed people, and I was you know what? The time that I'm spending on this, I could be spending in my business and really just doing it full on. And so that was my promise to myself. I was you can let this unemployment thing go if you bet on yourself and really do your business full time. And so for me, my business is completely virtual, and it was just about me pushing myself to actually do it. Right. So my challenge was letting go with the need for side stuff to sustain myself, and that was a huge identity shift, because I kind of identified myself as a hard worker, hustler. I'm very self-sufficient. I've been independent for a super long time, and so for me to let that go and really just trust myself was so freaking hard. You don't have to clap for everything. Thank you.
Anybody else have a big challenge that they had to face, or something that they went through that really taught you a lot? Yeah, please.
I've been with my significant other since college, so we've been together over, I forgot, 10 and a half years, I think, if I think about it that way. And we had to postpone our wedding, as I'm sure somebody else in this room had to do. And it wasn't even that part it was a no-brainer, like we've been together so long, and it was like, it's okay. But you know what was so annoying is then it was a trickle effect. We postponed it, and then it was like one thing after another. So it was just like getting over that initial hump, and then it was the biggest thing it taught me was just being patient and just, you can't control. His motto in life is control the controllables, and he must have told me that every day. And it's like, you cannot control this. You can't control anything that's happening, and that's way different than, business owners, same thing. Control the controllables. There's nothing you can do. So it was just a big patient waiting game, and we still got married, and it was blessed. And fun fact, I actually always wanted like a really small wedding. I never wanted a big wedding. So we got the best of both worlds. I got my little beach wedding, and he got his, we're still having our 300-some person wedding in June. So it's patience. I think that was like the biggest thing, is just be patient and be okay, and it's okay. You can't really control everything.
Patience.
Yeah, I think like kind of combining both of you, but a lot of pivoting for me, because I was doing a lot of traveling for events in Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto, and even though I lived here, I mentally wasn't living here, I guess. And then I was working with Cleveland Clinic, but then I was kind of still mentally Canadian. and then the border shut, and I was like, So it really made me think about like my business, and if this was to be a long-term thing or happen in the future, like I do live here now, so my fashion events in Canada are no longer happening, obviously. Right. But I noticed that the Cleveland community has a lot of a lot of opportunity here for people that might be interested in the type of events that I've done there but I haven't really seen here. So I'm excited to kind of pivot and bring back here. And then, like Jadia cut down, I ended up starting a new business in the pandemic. So we ended up starting like an accounting and bookkeeping business for women who want to start their own businesses and we're just struggling with finances and having to go to a bookkeeper and a tax person and then figuring it all out, and what do? Do you get unemployment or do you not? So that was something I pivoted it to while the events were kind of on the down low. Yeah. So there's a bit of patience and pivoting and a lot of becoming American.
Anybody else?
I'll go. Okay. So I feel like when you say pandemic, it was at first like this phase, and then there was like 10 phases. Like we're still like wearing masks. Like it's not really over. Right. So I'm like thinking about this. I'm like, what did I struggle with? But like there's so many phases. So we pivoted a lot. Like weddings. Like we had so many wedding cancellations. It was crazy. And we're like, what do we do? But then we started taking daily orders. People missed each other. So we're like, I want to send flowers to somebody. So that, and I didn't even realize I wanted to do that. And I'm like, I love it. Like, look at all these flowers. So it's a different world. But I will say that what really affected me the most is the beginning. So I have a family. Like I have kids and a husband and like a family, a dog, whatever, like a family life. I'm somebody who doesn't, like I love all that, but that's not my like main thing I'm doing every day. I'm like, okay, hustle. New business, which I did start 2 more at the end of the pandemic, like crazy. But I had to stop. Like, and I think that was something that people forgot about. Like, I saw this thing the other day. It was like, remember like this time last year, we all used to take a walk for an hour every day? And I'm like, oh my God, I did that. Like, we had nothing to do. And every day we're like, oh, I guess it's time for a walk. Like, nothing to do. But it was like forced everyone to stop. And I look back, and at first I was like, I'm scared. Like, I have to spend all this time. Like, what am I supposed to cook or something? Like, I don't know. But it forced us to. And now that we're like back into normal, I still love the hustle and I miss it. But also, like, I kind of miss that. So it's making me like this summer as our wedding season kicks up and events and things that I'm like, okay, like we're gonna pick a day. Like Tuesday's our day. I'm doing nothing. Like I won't answer emails, which I probably will at night. But like I won't answer emails. I won't take calls. Like this is it. Like I'm gonna go and take like an hour-long walk. Like so, yeah, that's my thing.
Anybody else have anything? Yeah, please.
So for me, it was a big life adjustment. On many different levels, and I'm sure it was for everyone else. And I'm not a homebody. I like if my friends are like, "You're actually home today." I am not a homebody. I can't stand being home. I'm the person who's always on the go, doing something, going somewhere. And that was huge for me. And then the other piece of that was a part of my mental health regimen is going to the gym. Like, I don't have to go to the gym, I need to go to the gym. I need to be there because it's a part of my mental health and how I take care of myself as an individual. And so finding a new space to ensure that I still had that mental health balance there in my life was really, really challenging for me. It took me a long time to really get into a routine and get adjusted. And I tell you, I was so nervous when the gyms opened back up, but I was like one of the first people back in there because I had to be there. But that was really challenging for me. It was just a mental adjustment and getting used to, okay, I'm forced upon this new normal. What do I do with all of this? Because I don't know. So that was really challenging.
Yeah.
I would share that we're all so similar. I listen to each of you and feel little pieces of myself in each of the descriptions that you've shared about the impacts that the pandemic had on you and your business. I think I'm probably the oldest person here. It's okay. But I've been in business for almost 20 years. And so as a yoga studio, everything that we do is based in like human communication and connection. And we love having a room full of 50 or 60 people breathing, moving, and sweating. This is before. With the doors closed and the heat turned up and like sweat flying, and we're giving people hands-on adjustments, going from person to person and like massaging their shoulders. Right. And so all of that stopped. We closed on March 13th, and I had always felt a call to doing something virtual because after so many years, we had lots of students who moved away and would say, I really miss your classes, I wish you would like make some videos or something, and I was just so resistant to it, probably because I'm so old. But so I just have this vivid memory of sitting on the floor of our office on March 13th, with like 2 or 3 of some of our folks that had been around for a while and saying, what are we going to do? And my husband, who's amazing, he doesn't really get involved in our business too much. He's much techier than I am. And within 3 days, we had a filming set up and we were ready to go. We started out on Facebook Live and then eventually transitioned to Zoom. But, the transition of going from teaching 50 sweaty students to one cold camera was just took me out of my body, and that is the place where I find my solace is like in the breath and the movement. So there was probably a full range of emotion that went along with that. But now as I reflect on all of that, we've come so far and we're able to reach and touch so many more lives than we were ever able to reach and touch in a physical place. And so I would say the biggest challenge was the human element, and yet finding new ways to show up for our students and remain connected to them even though it looked very different actually ended up being a blessing for us. And I feel that the way we grew the last 14 months would have never happened if it wasn't for the pandemic. We probably all feel that way on some level of like the pandemic pushed us in ways. So I feel like I can look at it now with just those really grateful eyes.
Wow.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Anything to add?
Go. So I think for me, my challenges weren't necessarily really focused around business at all. If anything, it actually was good for me in a lot of ways. I was driving around town all over the place to see clients, like why, when I could just do it virtually. So it kind of pushed me to do things virtually. I could easily do that, which was good. And I ended up having time to create an online program, which again was like a nice blessing. And so it worked out business-wise actually for me, but I think my challenges were more about like getting rooted. And I, was working, or am still working full-time. I had my business, teaching yoga, and I was all over the place. And I am someone who gets energy from people. and I was doing a lot of like lunch and learns and group sessions and teaching yoga. And again, I miss touching people and hearing massages. I miss it so much. But so I get energy from other people, and I wasn't getting that. And I could still, I'm someone who could be an extrovert or an introvert. I also like staying at home and having my own time. But I think when you're so thrown off, right, and you're only stuck at home, like you obviously begin to pick up on that imbalance. And on top of it, I was someone who, again, was all over the place. I didn't really have structured routines. Like every day was kind of different. It was all over the place. So I had to really create routine for myself, which ultimately was a positive because I need that. But I wasn't giving myself that before. So I had to like begin to wake up at the same time each day, even though I was at home already, and give myself these routines and some structure and find ways to still connect, with other humans somehow, even though, we weren't given that anymore. But so.
Anybody else? All right. Those are all great, and I think a lot of you touched on, and not that I want to speak for all of you, but I think many things that we went through, change is huge. And I don't think age matters here. I think when we get stuck in our ways and when something is working and then you hit the brick wall, you got to change everything. And then you realize you have no routine. You've got to redo and revamp and figure out what's going to work for you. And there's, you got to strike that balance. So those are all fantastic things. Next, I want to move to, we are a room full of women, and I talk about this a lot with some of my female friends, and we're all so different. How do you define, what does femininity mean to you, and how do you express yourself as a woman? Did I get you guys? Yep.
I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
Because I felt this in a way when I moved to Cleveland, because I'm from Toronto, which is, you could compare it to New York or Chicago in terms of population. It's awesome.
Love it.
I'm over there as soon as the border opens. So I think, like, really to be raw, when I grew up in Canada, and I was never stared at or questioned about what I look like or why I wear this, but in Cleveland I was. People were not used to someone like me. I think maybe because, so my actual background, I work with children with developmental disabilities. I'm a behavioral therapist, so I work with Cleveland Clinic with children with autism. But on the side, my fashion stuff grew so much that I ended up taking it full time when I moved here. So I guess in the healthcare setting and then also in the fashion setting, when you see me as a female, there are already assumptions made about me once I walk into a room without me opening my mouth. Yeah. Before I would say, maybe the rest of you, right? So for me, being a very feminine, dressy, I'm always dressed to the T. I'm never underdressed. So being extra and looking like this, it's like there's, how do I combat these assumptions that are made about me and my femininity before I even have a chance to speak about it? So that was something I really struggled with in the beginning, but now I feel like I've come to terms with the fact that this is who I am. I am a female, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm here to support other females, and I'm always going to be extra and people are always going to have questions. So I'm just here to kind of have a judgment-free zone about who I am and my femininity, because I think they interlace a lot more because of me wearing the hijab and my religion. So I think for me it's like a mix of many different things, but also being able to have a no judgment zone around it so that people are comfortable asking me questions, and I'm more than happy answering them.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else, big thoughts on your femininity and expressing yourself as a woman?
I'm all about these like deep conversations.
I'm here for it. Anybody? Yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, I love the idea of like the feminine and masculine energies, and we obviously all have both.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm someone who is like deep into my femininity, or at least is how I perceive it, and I actually probably need a little bit more of like that masculine side, because to me, it's that that more flow energy, the connection with people, and that's what I'm all about, is like healing and connecting, and finding that flow, and that's like part of that's like a kind of a big piece that's interwoven into my philosophy of when I'm working with clients, is finding this balance of like effort and surrender and that flow in between. And to me, like, that is the feminine, is that flow, where masculine is more of that like structure and the heat and the go go go. And I have that. I'm not just like laying around all day, but but I guess as far as like the the structure and routine, because I mentioned before, that's obviously my downfall. So to me, that's what it is to me, is that the connection I have with others, and it's really like the underlying thing of like what I do and why I do what I do, and why I like connecting with people. I mean, not just women. I work with everybody, all genders, but I think that diving into that feminine side allows you to connect with others more and kind of tap into like that healing energy, because you're able to intuitively get to know your clients or whoever you're working with in that way.
Great. I will totally bounce off that, because I feel like I'm in the same like realm with people. I think that's like one of the most touching things, is like with our clients or patients or whoever it might be, your customers, whoever, it's that women are so damn unique. And I think that's something that, like, look at all of us around, we all are so different, and we have different bodies, and we have different hair, and we have different faces, and being feminine is something that a lot of us put down, like, daily. We talk to people every single day who put down their femininity, and they say, well, I'm fat, my hair is thin, I have dry skin, I have this and this, and I'm like, stop it. Look at what you do have. Always switch it and look at the feminine traits that you do have that are beautiful. And sure, if you want to fix something, that is what we're here for, but you have to embrace that. So I think it's just we live in such a society that's just like shameful, and I'm guilty of it. I'm actually the opposite of you. I'm probably too masculine, where I'm like a go, go, go. I was just talking to Sarah about this at lunch, where I'm like, my brain's like ping pong, like go, 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 go. Don't sit still. So I'm the opposite, and I just have recently been like, wait a second, I'm a female, you're supposed to rest, and we're supposed to be the ones that accept nourishment, accept, our whoever loves us, accept love. Like, that is who we are. We give it also, but accept that too. And that's something I guarantee you guys in here, half you don't. Like, you put up that front and just say, well, I give to my kids, I give to my job, I give to my significant other, whatever it might be. But then it's like, wait a second, who are you? So it's like that femininity of like remembering, like, you are so cool, so unique, so beautiful. It doesn't matter what you look like physically. It's feminine is divine. It's a totally different. We're so different. Masculine's, sorry for the male in the room, but
I think I'd bounce off of that and say that I think, over the years, especially like after high school, I've learned that like femininity is just letting every female be who they are and not judging them for what they bring to the room. So even especially with social media, there's so many people that do similar things to I do on social media, and I find it easy to be like, well, why is she doing that, or why are they doing that? Instead, like, embrace that that's what they're doing, and like that's who they are, and we should just all let everyone, be who they are and bring out whatever it is that makes them who they are. So I think that's what it means to me.
I totally agree with that. So I actually come from the opposite place. Like I said, I have kids and a husband and stuff, but my gender roles in my house are kind of different. Like, I used to work a full-time job in commercial real estate, which is a very male-driven industry, and I was used to telling everyone what to do, and I didn't cook. I still don't cook dinner, but I didn't cook dinner. I didn't take care of our kids. Like, when the pandemic happened, my husband stayed home with them. Like, our roles are very reversed. So femininity is something that I was never really in tune with. I was like, nah, whatever, like, we're all the same. But I think it's important to embrace that side of things too. Like, I work with flowers now. Like, whoa, nice. But to be fair, my husband, he gets in there and he works with flowers too. And I'm like, nope, you're doing great. Like, just feel it. But I think it's good to have like, I don't know, like vibration between both things. Like, I think it's okay to have gender roles reversed, and I think it's okay to, like, I put on mascara for you guys. Like, when I had a corporate job, I threw away every pair of like heels or like dress shoes, and I embrace that. Like, I live, that's my life. Like, I'll be wearing something like this pretty much every day with maybe like Birkenstocks instead of these.
Yeah.
But like, I think that's okay too. I think femininity is not just femininity like you see in a dictionary. I think it's a multitude of who you are on the inside. So yeah.
I love that, because I think we fall into this habit of trying to meet societal expectations of what a female is, instead of embracing who it is that we are and all of our unique qualities. And I want to talk to you after, because I was in commercial real estate. And it's all angry men.
I have stories.
Anybody else on femininity?
I would just say, like, what I love about women, and this is such a perfect example, is the stories that we tell and the willingness that we are able to share with each other in revealing who we are on the inside. And there aren't a lot of men, you know, that have the capacity to do that. And yet, as human beings, that's how we, you know, sort of fill our hearts up, is listening to each other tell stories. And I think that women are amazing listeners. And our stories are worthy of being told. So thank you again for providing a platform for stories to be told.
Yeah.
Can I say something? I'm just like hearing everybody, again, like you were saying before, you know, hearing everybody, and we're so similar, and like you kind of take pieces of each person. And coming from corporate, I was an operations director, which is how we met, and of spaces, like expanding spaces, running spaces, and second to the CEO, who was a typical like bro entrepreneur that we all know and kind of love in Cleveland, and they serve their role, their own purpose. But it was very hard for me coming into my own business, because that's another like masculine energy space where we are go, and I started to realize like I'm not actually the type A person that I thought that I was. I just kind of had to be in corporate. And also I got off of hormonal birth control, which really shifted my hormones, and I realized like, oh, I'm a lot like softer than I thought that I was, which was crazy, because I'd been on it for like over a decade, and just like figuring out who I actually am, you know, with my natural chemicals. And I would totally resonate with you, the Birkenstocks. Totally, like I'm always, I call my my style like lesbian chic, which I can totally say because I'm here. But flannels, Birkenstocks, like that's how you'll normally find me. But I noticed, like as I step more into who I am in my business, I find ways to like really balance both sides, and like I do own dresses, and like my boobs look kind of good, like okay, like you know, you can start kind of playing with that stuff. And now I have like a makeup routine in the morning that I just love, and it sets me up for my day. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I feel like that almost like replaces the ritual. And I am in my masculine energy quite a bit, but being able to work with women really has made me like switch more into that like nurturing role. And even though we're talking about business and teaching them how to kind of back off of the push, force, because I teach more of like an attraction method, right? Not that you're not doing any work, but you're working a lot on your mindset to open yourself up to just letting things happen and letting things be easy, which I think we fight quite a bit.
I don't like it.
Because it feels scary. It feels like we're not safe, right?
It is very scary.
And then in being similar to what you're saying, of being in the role with my partner, who I being on the career spectrum is a little bit weird, because I'm also with a man. So it's really, it's not something that I have to like come up and like talk about a lot in my identity. And so like with him, he is much more feminine than I am. People kind of laugh that I'm the queer one instead of him, but he also loves his Birks. But I'm able to kind of like just be who I am, just like your partner like steps up in those roles. And my partner does as well, and that's just so empowering to feel like, okay, I don't have to change who I am. I can just find someone who supports that, and I can work with people who support that, and I can effortlessly flow in between the masculine and the feminine, and I can just find who I really am. And to speak to identity, like Eamon was saying, like being a Black woman and like showing up in the world as a Black woman, I have to like hyper think about how people are perceiving me and be super bubbly and make sure I'm smiling all the time, like look presentable. Like,
I have like a really bitch face if I don't smile. I'm like mentally, I'm like, even smile.
Because it really does matter, like how people see you. And so, like, I'm not naturally like this all the time. Yeah. But I have the opposite problem. I have a too friendly face where everyone talks to me. Direction. Someone was talking to me about Social Security the other day. I'm like, I'm nowhere there, bud. Yeah, it's really difficult to kind of like think about that and how I have to present myself. Because Black women are often seen as like angry, masculine. Like we think about the goddess Serena Williams and how everyone calls her like a man because she's muscular and she's not smiley. And so I have to constantly be thinking about that as well, of like, especially now that I'm in the online space and like, you know, around tons of white women. I'm in a room full of white women. I love you all very much, but there's no one else that looks like me, you know? So I'm constantly thinking about that and like overcompensating my femininity so that people don't feel threatened.
Let's pivot. Pivot's like the 2021 word. Talking about this because I've always been in male-dominated industries, but I have a very entrepreneurial mindset, and the jobs that I've also had have been pretty unique. Dating has had its own set of challenges because it's like I'm intimidating all of these people, and that becomes very difficult. So with a room full of female entrepreneurs, how do you deal with this? What have been your challenges as female entrepreneurs, and how are you dealing with it? What do you do?
Oh, I can go first.
Yeah.
So being taken seriously is the hardest thing. So like just walking into a room, checking out a new space for your building, meeting with a male and having him think that because you don't have every duck in a row, you clearly have no clue what you're doing. There's nothing more frustrating than that, but I think that being confident in yourself and in your ideas, and also surrounding yourself with people that make you feel confident and make you feel like you know what you're doing, even if you really have no clue, is really, really important. And finding people that will listen to you and be a sounding board and tell you that your idea is great are great to have. So I think it's important to understand that, you know, you're not going through it alone, and that you can't let the men make you feel that way. You know, just keep true to who you are.
Can I ask a question to her?
Yeah, please.
How do you feel like, have you felt like you've had to learn how to validate yourself?
Absolutely. Like even just this year, I have been asking for a raise from my boss for a long time and nothing came of it. And I think honestly, just because of the pandemic and the what do I have to lose mindset, I was like, I'm gonna try another avenue. And like I went to a female, and even then nothing happened. And it took a lot. Like it took me trying many, many times to actually get to that point. But if you would have told me to do that 2 years ago, like there's no way in hell. I would never have had that confidence. So it's definitely a learning curve, and it takes a long time to get there. Like I said, I was voted most likely to never come back in high school. Not really because I was never going to come back, but because there was nothing else for me to win, and I wasn't going to advocate for myself or anything else. So like it's really cool to have that fun fact now, knowing what I know about myself, that like my confidence is so much farther from that title in high school, but it takes a really long time to get there.
I was like literally the same, because confidence is a really big thing that I feel us as women in general struggle with. So like one of the biggest challenges 100% is being taken seriously, especially when you're a little younger maybe. I feel like I look older than my age, which works out great. And I am intimidating as well, which also works out great when you're talking with men. I'm usually seen in heels, and dressy clothes. So I think, I hope your phone's okay. So I think like being taken seriously, but also for them to believe that, yes, this is actually what you do. I think that I come across, like, I've worked in the fashion industry for over 7 years, right? I've done major events, but new people, when I tell them, they'll be like, really? And I'm like, why is it so hard for you to believe that a young woman is successful and is confident in her success?
Yeah.
Like, why does that bother you, you know? I think that's a big issue I come across is with men and women both, is we're not only scared of our confidence, but we're scared of other people. When we see them doing well, sometimes it bothers people, and I feel like it's funny because I just did a whole topic on Instagram about confidence and being someone who's, I know I'm confident, I know exactly what I want, I know exactly what I don't like. And I think that really scares a lot of people, and I try to like talk about it. Like, once you do that journey and become confident in yourself, there's no reason for you to say no to anything. You could do anything, because what is someone going to say to you? No. Okay, next person.
Yeah.
You know, so I think being taken seriously, and even with other women, just being confident and having them be like, cool, I'm going to support you.
Yeah.
If I could respond to that, I'm a confidence coach, so hearing you say that, it's starting from here going on, thanks to the Beauty Boost Cleveland, and I see other women empowerment, the good space, communities growing, and that's what we need, is to speak out and to just keep sharing the message, and like you guys are saying, being able to have the ability to share our stories, because we come from past generations. I mean, it's deeply rooted in all the issues that we're dealing with in these last 2 years. I mean, these issues that are so deeply rooted from generations and generations afar. You know, it's going to take time. Like your business took time. You know, it's going to take time for us to. We just have to keep speaking up.
Yeah, I mean,
and keep eluding that confidence.
Absolutely. It's like, to your point about, having confidence and knowing what you want, like that has scared my partner a lot. Like, he is very nervous when he asks a question and I say it's not going to fail. He doesn't like that answer.
Mine is kind of like,
It's like, no, like there has to be a plan B. There's no plan B, because if there's a plan B, then I'm not doing plan A right. And he, like, that confidence took so long to get to, but like, I'm not gonna let someone break that down. Like, and he slowly comes around to understanding, like, okay, like now you've done it, I see it.
my had to learn.
Yes.
I intimidated a lot of men that I was introduced, and finally I got married, which is why I'm in Cleveland, but it took my husband a while. Now he's just like, okay, do your thing. You're right.
Absolutely. Anyone have anything else to add there?
So I'm a huge self-confidence advocate. Like, I'm all about it. I'm like, and I think it comes from a place of what's the worst thing that could happen. Like, literally, when I was like getting ready to leave my job, I made a lot of money, more than I probably should have, honestly. But I was like, my husband's like, what are we gonna do? You know, like, what's next? He's like a stay-at-home dad, and we're like so worried. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we'll drive Uber. Who cares? Like, we'll figure it out with DoorDash. Like, it's not that big of a deal. So I think when you come from a place of what's the worst thing that could happen, like, what really is the worst? Nothing that bad. Like, we'll all figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, call your landlord or your lender, like, whatever. Push your payment back. Like, I don't think anything that horrible can ever happen. But it's not in the flower industry as much. Again, like, it's mostly female dominated. But in commercial real estate, one of the biggest things, and I was like, hang on a second here, is before me there was like 3 60-year-old white men, and even after me there's a 6-year-old white man that took my job. But when after the guy before me, they, like, the owners of my building came in and sat down, and they're like, okay, like, treat me like a baby, like, okay, we're gonna give you the job. And I'm like, that's nice, like, where's my offer? What do you mean? And they came back and they're like, oh, we'll talk about it later, like, do you want this job? And I'm like, absolutely not. And I called my husband, he's freaking out, and he's like, what do you mean, take the job, it's a lot of money. And I'm like, no way, what are they gonna do? Find somebody else? Like, no, they're struggling now. So I asked for, like, again, way more than I probably should have made. And they were like shocked. They're like, what do you mean? Like, how do you have this confidence? You're like this 30-year-old white girl, like, you have no idea. There's these guys, they have all this, this experience and stuff. And I'm like, well, here's your choice. You can either pay me what I want, or you can hire someone else. And so then, like, they took forever. Like, 3 days later, they call back and they're like, fine, we'll give you it. And I'm like, see? So I that place, like, again, like, they did what I wanted to. So I think if you think, what's the worst thing? I would have kept my assistant job, still made a decent living, and that was that. So it's a good place to come from.
Yeah, I also am very overconfident. I feel like I have, like, that problem. Like, all the women in my family, super confident. even if we don't know what we're talking about, like, you'll believe us. And so that has really helped me. Like, I get ridiculous stuff. And so, like, and I almost felt guilty about that for a long time. Like, why is it so easy? Like, when everybody else is struggling with it. But I think that that's really served me almost. And I've never really worried about intimidating people. Like, hearing so many of you say that, like, makes me think, like, oh yeah, how would that have felt if, like, they came against me like that? But I'm, like, super competitive. Like, if somebody tells me I can't do something, I'm fucking doing it. Like, it's just, like, I really am, like, a balls to the wall kind of person. If I want something, I'm, like, running at it. And that also comes with its own pitfalls. Because I'll run away right into a wall, you know? But yeah, I feel like, so I was an only child until I was, like, 16. And my parents are, like, my biggest fans. Like, they have shrines to me on their wall. Like, they've done it's a little creepy. I remember when I first started my business and I would do, like, Facebook Lives. Like, my parents would always be, like, typing. And it was really embarrassing. But, you know, for a while, they were the only people watching me, you know? And they're so proud of me. They do not know what I do, but they will try their best to explain it to people. And so it's just, like, they really raised me to speak up and to have a voice. And I think society kind of came in and told me, like, that wasn't normal, which I've been talking to my therapist a lot about. But I feel like now being in the entrepreneurship lane, it really, like, and I teach my clients a lot about, like, brand, voice, and messaging, and, like, who are you and what do you actually stand for? Like, we're not just about, like, the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, you know, what you do to show your expertise. It's really, like, much deeper than that. Like, people want to connect with the people behind the brands. And it's especially in this, like, political climate and the social climate, like, you need to have something different about you, and you need to talk you know, up against social issues. Like, people notice when you're not saying anything. And so I think that it's really served me in a lot of ways. It hasn't served me in other ways, but I think, I remember when I first wanted to start my business, I was dating this older guy who was, like, 10 years older than me. I don't know what I was doing. He had money, that was it. He took me to Vegas, like, all expenses paid, and I was like, this is it, you know, I'm gonna be a wife. And then when I went to start my business, he was very much like, no, you're gonna be, like, a wife and mom, and which is hilarious because, you know, I don't even want children. So to me, it was very much like a pat on the head, like, oh, how cute, you want to do that thing, right? And that was, like, the fuel to my fire. That's all I needed. He's not my partner now. But yeah, I feel like I don't remember the question, but
Well, I love what you said, because I'm going to jump right off of that and go into something else.
Can I say one more thing? I love that, and again, we have to get past so many generations and deeper things, but one other thing you highlighted on is, I actually had lunch with a friend recently. It's Natalie Schaefer. We have a mom's group, and so she's one of our moms. But we had lunch, and she's going to be on our MMC team as well as Jen is. And she's like, well, I just want to make sure I do things the way that you need me to or want me to. And she's like, and then if I do these really, we talked about how we're doing really good things and, like, doing really exciting things. And I've actually got a friend that I'm kind of losing right now because she's like, I don't know how to interact with you now because you have all these things you're doing. And it's like, how do I navigate this friendship now? And it's, that could easily make me dumb down, mute, quiet down, and be like, okay, I'm gonna back off. This is too much. Like you said, I totally related with that. Like, because I'm the same way. Only child. My mom praises my ground I walk on, and never had anyone to compete with. And so it's like, you just have to keep showing up. It's so hard. It's something I'm going through big time right now. I'm gonna lose one of my best friends probably because. For me, she's either got to show up to where I'm at, and I've called her, I've tried to connect with her, but she just can't figure it out yet. And I will be there when she's ready, but I'm not going to go back to the level that she needs me to be at.
Yeah.
Just really quickly, because I've been told you're doing too much, like, straight to my face by someone I'm in business with. And I think that we have to understand that there are people who just don't have that level of capacity to understand what too much is or what we'll ever be doing. And I hope she comes back, but if she doesn't, it's not your loss, it's hers.
Right, exactly. And, you know, there's seasons where and I just actually did a live on Instagram about this, about some things have to leave your life in order for other things to come in.
Yeah,
I mean, like, Jen is one of my good friends, we're developing a friendship and things like that. It's serving me. It's serving me in my new season. And so.
Well, I wanted to go here because I've had a really difficult time. I've literally had a friend come up to me and tell me to remove a title from my resume because that's not who you are. That's not what you really did. I was like,
Wow.
But it was your legit title.
It really was. It really was what I did. And the more I move through this transitional phase of figuring out what it is that I want to do, I have been triggering people left and right.
That's how you know you're doing it right.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
So, and I'm sure for all of you in your businesses, people have shown up to say something to you. You're doing it wrong. This is not who you are. Why are you doing this? How did you handle those comments?
I was like, girl, bye.
Yeah.
No, I'll go first because this happened to me in December. So I actually had a Canadian business. It was oh my god, the words just left my brain. We had a company. Oh my god, I'm like blanking, guys. I'm so sorry.
You have so many businesses.
We were doing we were helping designers and models. A PR company. I had a PR company in Canada, and my co-founder was this older female. She was super great. We worked together for 5 years, and then we got to a point where she was like, "You're doing too much." She's like, "Why are you doing your other business?" Like, she wanted me to revolve my life around her and the business we were doing together. But I was newly married. I was in a new country. I didn't have any friends, and I'm like the most social person. Like, there was a lot going on. And then she goes, "I saw that you did an interview. Why are you calling yourself a serial entrepreneur?" Like, what do you want me to call myself if I have 3 businesses? I was just like, that's when I realized, I'm like, okay, this is not a relationship that I can save. Like, we can still be on professional talking level, but that's not someone who's ever going to understand what I'm doing. Like, I really had to sit down and I was so stressed because that was my first business. It was my baby. I only had one other business at that time, and I was also working at Cleveland Clinic. And my husband was like, "Well, why are you putting up with her?" And I'm like, "Oh, you guys just have such a straight, we think okay, this is gonna happen." And he's like, "Just say no." And I'm like, "You're right." So I really had to kind of break apart from that because she kept asking "Why are you doing this, this, and this?" And I was kind of like, "Because that's who I am, and that's what's bringing me success, and that's what people are receiving from me." Mm-hmm. So I've definitely come across people that are they don't understand, and I think it's something new, especially with the pandemic creating all these new entrepreneurs.
Yes.
It's just something that we haven't really defined yet as well.
Mm-hmm. This is something that I really struggled with a lot, especially recently, I would say in the last year. And it really also begins to affect your confidence too when you have so many people placing limitations on you and they begin to say these things and they're almost like lies. It's like, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you can't do this, you can't handle this. And what we end up doing is we adapt those lies and they become self-limitations on ourselves. And it's like, wait a minute, you have to stop. And I had to do so many times just stop and refocus and say, okay, this is what I'm called to do. And it's really, it's identifying, ensuring that you're identifying what is your purpose here? What am I called to do? And stepping out in boldness, stepping out in confidence, and embracing who you are and what you're called to do. And it's still a daily struggle. You still have people doubting you, trying to place limitations on you. But when you're able to own who you are and what you're called to do, it gives you the confidence to be able to say no, or this relationship isn't healthy for me, or whatever it might be for your situation. But yeah, it was a definite struggle, and it still is.
Yeah, definitely. Are you gonna go? I don't want to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'll just share that 20 years ago, when I started Inner Bliss, yoga was still on fringe. So when I shared with my, my running buddies and my, the people that I did different kinds of physical workouts with, that I was gonna open a yoga studio, I was faced with really a decision of when I forged ahead in this practice that I had fallen in love with and really come to believe in, and lose really most of my friends because they thought I was crazy or that I had joined the cult or somewhere in the middle, like I had changed my religion. And I reflect back on that because it was such a different time than it is now. And I think it's an interesting story because we all see, where yoga is today. And I had the privilege to witness sort of the unfolding of this practice that sort of scooped me up and saved my life. And I knew in my heart, if it had done that for me, it would be that for other people someday. But at that moment in 1990, 2001, because my son is 18. He was born in 2002. So, 2001, 1990 is when I graduated from college. And in 2001, and so it's a different kind of challenge than a lot of you are facing. But what I would offer as, I guess, food for thought or contemplation is when you believe in something so fully that you're willing to quit your job and you're willing to modify your life and you're willing to continue to start over and over and you're willing to stay with it in the midst of a pandemic, you believe in it. And when you believe in something so fully, you really put people at a point where they either have to trust what you believe in or they're going to move on. And then you find people that do believe in your work to support you. So
it's believing fully in it, like with that confidence at stake too, because if you're like, what's your why? Your belief can't come from the outside world, it has to come from inside yourself. And like again, like the pressures of the outside world, and like as long as because you can't just be like, okay, I'm gonna do this because it's gonna make me a lot of money. Maybe if that's what you're into, sure, fine. But your why has to be so deep rooted and you have to be so confident about that why, or else, it won't happen.
Yeah. Going off of money, like I trigger people all the time because that's all I talk about is money.
Yeah.
And I talk about it especially through the lens of faith. Like if we're spiritual beings or even if you're like a Christian, a lot of times when we are grown up in the church or you're like in a deep spiritual practice, charging for what you do sometimes feels like it's against what you believe or what you were raised to do. And my deeper why, like you were saying, is really like, it really frustrates me that we come from corporate where we're capped, right? You have to work for money and they get to tell you, well, unless you're you, they get to tell you like your ceiling, right? No matter how hard you work, no matter late nights, like whatever, like you just make the same amount of money, right? And so we're like, F that, let me go into this entrepreneurship realm. But according to statistics, women own businesses, especially women of color own businesses, don't really make past 25K. There's a huge gap in income. So we're coming from corporate with a huge wage gap. Now we're going into a lane that we feel like we're creating ourselves, right? There's no ceiling. We can, choose what we want to make, and we're still capping ourselves as women. And so when I'm triggering them, I really feel like it's shifting like paradigms. It's really shifting the way that they think about themselves, and it almost makes them question it. And if they don't come back, that's okay. But a lot of times they'll come around and be like, you know what? I've been thinking about what you said, and let's have a conversation about it. So I feel like it's my job, like it's my purpose to really like trigger these conversations because we're not going to get anywhere if we don't have them. And so like, especially when it comes to money, like it's so taboo in our culture and we all want it, but we don't want to say that we want it, and we don't want to ask for more because we need to be grateful, and like we don't want to make more than our friends because then that's weird, right? We don't, like my favorite thing to do is like go like, she can attest to this, I'll probably do it tonight, but I will like pay for people that I'm with, right? Because it's like my expression of like, I'm so happy that I get to like make the money that I do. And I get to share it, right? But I don't have to think that I'm only worthy of making money because I'm gonna spread it around, right? I can just make it because I want to, and like that's good enough. And I want other women to know this. And so if I'm not talking about it, if I'm not triggering those conversations, like it really does kind of push people away. Like, I come from a super religious family, and so that was triggering. Like I said, my parents watch all of my stuff. So sometimes when I'm talking about things, they're like, ooh, like, that's not what we learned. But that's inspired conversations with them too. And like, one of my biggest dreams is that I could grow this big enough where I could retire my mom. Like, she can come work with me if she wants to, if she's bored, but she doesn't have to, and I could buy her a house, she could do whatever she wants. And that's going to come from me triggering people and talking about money and talking about God in a different way than we grew up and we learned, right? So that's what I see it as, is just like inspiring the conversation and having people either shift their own paradigms and challenge them, or they're going to stay the same, and that's okay with me because I'm going to keep moving forward.
Right, and I think boundaries is huge. I've done a lot of work.
Don't talk to your friends and family about your dreams.
Yeah, heavy on the boundaries. Anybody else have anything to add? Because we're going to move on to our next portion here, right?
Yep. Can I just add that part? So like, if you're thinking about, if you have like a dream, if you're thinking about something that you want to start and you're already like not quite confident, you're not quite sure about it, or it's in the beginning stages, keep it to yourself and share it with other, like, connect with people like us. Like, connect with other people who are doing things, because if you're already not confident in it and you share it with someone who immediately stomps on it, it shifts how you think about it. So protect it like it's a baby. Like, you know, when you get pregnant, you don't tell people until like a certain amount of time until you're safe. Treat it like that. Treat it until your foundation is strong and why you're doing it, and you get some traction. And there's this podcast episode. It's on the Life Coaches Schools podcast by Brooke Castillo, and it's called Want Match. And basically, she's saying like, don't talk to people about things that aren't the fuse in your relationship. Like, so say we're like girlfriends, right? And we're a want match for business because we're both business owners. But say like you and I, I'll say running even though I don't do it. Like, you're running buddies, right? So you talk about running, and maybe you talk about like cocktails, and maybe you talk about shopping, right? But you're not a want match for business. Don't talk to her about business.
Right.
You know, because you're like preserving the relationship. Like, if you want to have a good relationship with that person, like if you want to let her go, right? But if you want to preserve those relationships, don't talk to them about things that they're not on the same page with. Really make boundaries around what your friendship or your, you know, with your mom or your mother-in-law or whatever is about, and don't bring up the things that are going to trigger them and trigger you, right? Because that's going to ruin your relationship. So I just wanted to say that for anyone who's like thinking about stuff.
I love everything you're saying. And I can totally attest to that, because I feel like, so at one point, like, my business was one way, and then when the pandemic happened, I kind of like up-leveled it, and a lot changed. And I think that a huge part of that was because exactly what you're saying. I was almost in this bubble incubator, like in my apartment, like I was only connecting with, you know, online with like people who were like-minded, and I was doing all these different programs and learning, and like, I wasn't seeing my friends so much, which that's not that was a good thing, like I missed them, but at the same time, you didn't have that like that fear where I was bringing it up maybe because it was dinner, you know, we were out to dinner or something, and you know, if we talk about what we're doing, and maybe I'd be like kind of nervous, and you have that imposter syndrome to talk about it, but instead I was just like going, like, I can do this, look at all these other people, because that's what I was surrounded with. And yeah, I think when you surround yourself, not that you have to only hang out with those people like you're saying, but I like that you're putting it as like, know what those relationships are for. Those relationships, my friend relationships, that aren't necessarily for them to nurture my business. They can support me in their own way, but I don't need to like talk with them about it
or force them to be entrepreneurs if they don't.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, and on that point, these are all entrepreneurs, and we're having a lot of business entrepreneurial talk. But we all have a brand, whether we are a business owner or not.
Yeah.
You know, we all have a brand, and I think as we get into this very entrepreneurial paradigm shift, it's just like, you still have a brand. Like, you can still live strong in what you're passionate about and what your calling is. Do you want to monetize it? Go for it. If you don't want to, like, you can still live and breathe it. And I'm one that comes from, I didn't have hobbies. My husband made fun of me. He's a Marvel fanatic. He's a history buff. He loves racing cars. He loves sports. And I'm sitting up here like, I like to drink wine with my friends. Yeah. I like to do really expensive things, like travel and shop and drink really expensive wine. But I didn't have like anything I could do on a regular basis. And like now I'm to the point where I've found my calling, my passion, and my hobbies, and it totally, I mean, that's just part of unlocking like who you are, but we all have a brand, and we don't have to be a business owner to express that.
But you can.
Yeah.
You're trying to put it on her.
Right.
She doesn't want a brand.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I had like a similar experience too of what you're all saying, actually, a surprise. But I've actually gotten into the habit of not even sharing my business with any of my friends just because I got burnt so bad at the start of it. And there's nothing that will take the wind out of your sails more quickly than a friend saying, oh, that's dumb, or something similar. It just totally back to confidence, right? It just like, you're done. Like, you're like, all right, I'm giving up. And I'm not doing this, but again, kind of just owning, you know, your brand and owning what you're called to do, and to step out, and that boldness again is so important. That's going to play, you know, just a huge factor when you do have people doubting you, when you do have people telling you that's a dumb idea, it's never gonna, you know, work, whatever it might be. And so I have gotten in the habit of just not even sharing with my friends what I'm doing. And I only strictly share with certain entrepreneurial people. And they've been a great resource, but it's very limited. You know, it is very, very limited. And I'm more about action than I am about words and what I'm going to do. I'd rather show you what I'm going to do than just talk about it. So that's really helped me significantly.
I think one that's, I know we're probably running out of time, but one other thing I thought of when I'm like listening to all this is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the book Vibrate Higher Daily. It is the best book ever, but like if you think about what you guys are all feeling in this room right now, everyone's like buzzing, you know, your like thought process, and that's something that like I feed off of, like you were saying earlier, like you feed off of energy, and if you walk into a room and you immediately get zapped of energy, you're not supposed to be there. And it's like, listen to that from the universe. I think that was a big thing. Before I actually met Sarah at a Beauty Boost event, and she owns Inspired, and it's like the coolest, most serendipitous thing. I actually left a very horrible job that quite literally was the most awful thing that's ever happened to me. But because the universe put me in a position in a very high vibration area, and we came in touch. And like, you know, so listen to the universe and listen to that high, the people that lift you up. And there are going to be people that bring you down, but don't necessarily look at it as a negative. They're there for a lesson, but there's other ones that are going to rise you even higher. And I have a friend right now who's one of my best childhood friends, and unfortunately she's going through a really hard time, and every time I talk to her, I'm like zapped. I tell my husband, I'm like, oh my God, she's calling again. It's like, but I'm there for her because she's my friend, and yeah, she's going to bring me down, but I also am like, well, I got to find 5 other people that are going to bring me back up. And it's like, that's what you have to do, is like take yourself out of that position, whether it's like, you know, a friendship, a marriage, a work situation, whatever it might be, that's bringing your vibration down to the floor, and leave it there. And if it doesn't rise up to you, then let it pass.
It's being the average of you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
So being the average, you have 2 or 3 that above, and 2 or 3 below, but that's what keeps that nice balance. Like, that's really cool.
All right, well, I'm gonna let everyone ask questions because I want to make sure our vendors have time to like have people mingle. I will open it for 2 questions. I'm gonna ask the first one, and I want to give an opportunity for everyone on the panel, just because you're all in different walks of life, and whether you're all working and doing different things, and you're not all business owners. And you 2 kind of touched on it, and Melissa did too, just because I know Melissa's journey personally. And everyone in this room is on different journeys. It is not easy being an entrepreneur. It is not easy taking that step. Some of us are born an entrepreneur. Some of us have gone corporate America route. If someone in this room has a thought on something that they want to do, say they want to run the Beauty Boost, or they want to start something like the Beauty Boost. If one of you just did it and was like, boom, and it happened the next day, please tell me your secrets. But what are those things that you took to do those steps? Was it someone you talked to? Did you have a mentor? Was it your significant other? Did you read a book? Was it a podcast? What did you do to make your dream come to fruition, pretty much? And if you're not there with your dream, what are those steps that you are going to take to get your dream to become reality?
I would say networking, a lot of networking. networking. Because I always say this to all my interns and everyone I meet, you never know who you're going to meet and who they are, like the both of you. And I just try to meet as many people as possible in the industry I was interested in, and like even if me and you meet and we don't connect, you might know someone that you might refer me to. And that's literally how I got started in the industry. I was not from a fashion background, but I ended up being the person who was hiring people from the fashion schools because I had networked enough to build up an expertise. So I would say networking, connecting with people, being nice. And I don't know if people are readers here, but there's a really good book called Do Less. And it talks about us and how we're feminine, but we can still make the same amount of money or accomplish the same amount of things with doing less. Because we're in a very go, go, go line, but we have to remember that like men have a 24-hour cycle, right? We don't. We have a whole month that we change. Our mood changes, our emotions changes, our body changes. So we have to really figure out when is the best time for me to work on things, when is the time that I'm going to relax and not push myself and just understand ourselves. So I would really say just networking and using the resources around you.
So one of the main things people say, like, oh, how did you do this? Or that's so great, or whatever. And the main thing that I always say is, I'm not special. Like, you guys, you're all beautiful. You're not special either. Like, sorry. It's true. Like, we're really not. Like, you're all just like us. So you just have to take a step, like, take a dive. I don't think it's uncomfortable, but it's not impossible. Like, literally, you're all the same as me and as everybody else up here. So that's something important to remember, is that none of us are special. We're different and beautiful, but we're not. Like, you do the same thing. I'm very bold, even though, again, like, I'm an introvert, I'm telling you, but I am bold. But I'm bold, and I'm just like, I live off of that, like, what's the worst thing that could happen to you thing. So I was like, okay, what can I do? And I was horrible at flower arranging. I didn't know what I was doing. Again, I just jump off a cliff. I say I'm gonna do something. I like went to a wholesaler and was like, nah, here's my license. Can I have to? They like gave me a bunch of stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. I threw them in bases, and I called every like person that I think is cool. I called like Brunuts and Kelsey Elizabeth and Emily Roggenberg. Like literally, I was like, these people have a lot of followers. Maybe they'll listen to me. I was like, can I send you free flowers? And they all said yes. So it was like, it cost me not that much, a few $100s, maybe, probably less. And I sent them these crappy arrangements, and they were like, that's a nice girl. It's true though, they all, like I still come, like these people are like, wow, like look how much she's grown. I'm like, no, seriously, like I really have, thanks for your help. But it's true, they're like, oh, what a bold, nice girl. Like sure, I'll post this. And it was like overnight. So I think just stepping outside your box, again, introvert, I didn't want to talk to those people. I'm like, they're way cooler than me. I don't want to do that, but I just sucked it up and did it. And then that's kind of how our business grew.
I think to your point too, instead of like one thing that I've noticed, especially with what I do, is to not ask people what they can do for you. So you didn't ask those girls like, what kind of flower arrangements would you want? What should I send you? You just did it. And you gave them something that they wanted. So approaching relationships as a two-way street, and not just a how can you help me, but what can I give to you? How could we connect? What could I connect you to? What can I do for you? Instead of approaching a conversation like, what have you learned? I don't really want to tell you, but if you approach me and you ask me, like, can we just have a conversation? I'd love to meet for coffee. I want to share some of the things I've seen you posting about, whatever, like, two-way street.
Yeah.
I think the first thing that came to my mind when you asked the question was just start. Just start. Just do anything you can to just start. And, you know, for me, like, my business was basically taking me as a dietitian and growing a business around it. So that piece I didn't have to educate myself around, whereas, you know, whatever your dream might be, you might have to educate yourself on that thing. Or for me, it was just, how do I start a business in general? And I started off, it was, I mean, so simple. I just looked up, how do I start an LLC? That's the first step, you know, and then you just kind of go from there. And I mean, I told you guys before, like, I used to be driving around town. I was going to the library to, like, print off handouts for people. Like, it's, you know, it was really simple, you know, and, like, I've changed things immensely, and it's so much better on what I'm doing, how I'm working with people, like, my processes and everything. But that's okay. Like, it's okay that I started off, like, in this silly, you know, like, strange, like, discombobulated sense, you know. I just started, and I feel like I would say the same exact thing that I tell my actual clients who are working on, you know, either physical activity or nutrition. It's it's focus on consistency rather than intensity. You don't need to have your business like booming right off the bat, right? You just need to be consistent on what you're doing. So as long as you're putting in the effort and you just take that one step, like, okay, what is the one thing I need to do today to like get started or to educate myself or whatever it is, then that's what you do. And then you just build off that and you stay consistent every single week, every single day. You just show up, and it doesn't matter if, again, you don't need to be making 6 figures right away. It's just about getting it started, and you know, eventually you can get there. But don't worry about that. You know, just stay focused and stay consistent. So.
Yeah, for me it was 2 things. It was networking, like you, and within the last, I would say 6 years working in corporate America, I've met so many different small business owners, and I leveraged that. And I didn't say, hey, can you mentor me? I said, hey, do you want to meet me for a cup of coffee or whatever it was, so I can ask you a few questions about this. And from there, I was able to get so much knowledge and information about starting a small business, and it was so incredibly valuable. And I still do. I still leverage that that network. And then the other piece is focus. Kind of like what you were saying. Focus is so incredibly important. And for me, I was getting bogged down by everything that I had to do, right? Because when you think about starting a small business, at least for me, it was so incredibly overwhelming. And because of that, I would put it off to the side because I was so overwhelmed. So instead of doing something about it, I would just put it off to the side. And before you know it, a day becomes a month becomes 6 months, and 6 months becomes a year. And then you're going, wow, like what have I accomplished this past year? And when I began to just break it down and focus each and every day, show up every day focused, it's amazing how much I was able to accomplish in just a month's time. And that's really when my business began to grow and boom, and I could really see a difference. But it's breaking it down and focusing. And I literally have on my phone every single day in the morning, it goes off at 7 a.m. It says, what is your focus for the day? To remind me, because that's what I need. And it's different for everyone, but I have to tell you, just staying focused, because there's so many distractions. There's distractions by everything that you have to get done for it. There's distractions in your personal life. There's children, there's spouses, there's friends, and it's going to take away from that focus. But when you train your mind, it's amazing how much you can accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Everybody loves a free coffee, so don't be scared
Yeah.
to reach out.
I love what Rachel, right? Mm-hmm. I love Rachel was saying about like just getting started. And I think that's like the greatest advice ever. And also when you're getting started, like what do you actually need to get done? Because when I got started, I was like, I want the beautiful website, and I'm gonna pay for the branding, and I'm gonna like do this and that and that. And then it took me 6 months before I ever sold anything because I didn't know how to sell. And that was like the bare bones of your business. Like you have to be able to sell your thing, right? And so that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna invest in myself. I'm gonna get some help there. But even like mentorship in general, a lot of the mentors who have helped me get to where I am still do not know I exist. There's so many people online that provide such amazing value. Even the women here, like if you can't connect with them like directly, like watch her business if it's a business that like looks like what you want to create, right? And it's just so important for you to like just get into the zone of like look at yourself, what you want and what you want to do. Because especially with social media, like it's so easy to compare. It's so easy to like just copy and paste somebody else's business and assume that it's going to work for you because it worked for them. And that's just not the case, because I think we can all attest there's no right way to do what we do. We just kind of like figured it out. And we're constantly tweaking. And I love what Rachel said too, of like the iteration that you start with is going to be nowhere near where you end. And sometimes as big dreamers, we like think 20,000 feet in the air or like 20,000 steps ahead. And we're like, even now when we're doing new things, I still have to remind myself, okay, start at the beginning. Like I really want to start doing retreats. And of course I want to have a beautiful location. I want to get a personal chef. I want to do this and that and that. And I'm like, I should probably just get an Airbnb here in Cleveland until I'm ready to come here. Like, some charcuterie boards or something. So like really thinking about, okay, this is what I want to do. That might be the 20,000, step ahead. I'm going to start with this thing right now and like work my way there. Keep and hold that vision because you know where you're going, and that's how it helps you like maneuver. It's like your compass, helps you make decisions, but really just like being okay with people seeing you start at the beginning, because it seems like everybody, I was just talking to you about how everybody's like a millionaire at 23 online now, and everyone's a millionaire, and you know, it's not going to look like that. We're seeing the outliers, so just kind of zone into the biggest, like you can listen to what other people say, right? But the biggest guide really is yourself, and I think every woman up here trusted herself over everybody, and that's all I got to say about that.
And I would just add on what you're saying. There's, you know, like your faith, your spiritual practice, your physical. There's so many paths, right, that you can get to what feeds your soul, what takes care of your body. Similarly, there's a million paths to owning a business. And so I would probably be a little bit different than most of what you all have said, in that I just fell in love with something. And I fell in love with it so deeply that I could see myself spending the rest of my life sharing it. I had an English degree, and had worked in like private club sales. That was my experience in starting a business. And it was at a time when there weren't a lot of people starting businesses. Like entrepreneurship wasn't even a thing when I started my business. I was like, what's that? I don't even know what an entrepreneur is. People would ask me, oh, are you an entrepreneur? No, I'm a yoga teacher. So we're in a different climate, but I still think, like, going back to just like what feeds you and what are you in love with so much that you're willing to put the work in, you're willing to rise above the doubt, you're willing to educate yourself, you're willing to invest in yourself. And I'm not saying that you can't start a great business that was something that you're not in love with, but it sure helps to be in love with it.
Going off that too, I think I like both of those, because you were talking about like compass and being in love with something. And I think one thing, this is like the most basic ever, but go back to like good old elementary pro and con list. Like if you're like in love with something, you're gonna have all pros and you're gonna have like maybe one con. But that's a big thing. And then I think this is like a little woo-woo, some of you guys will get this, but look for signs from the universe. If you are getting a stick in the mud over and over and over again, then like you are going to be stuck there. So listen to the universe. Like how many times have you guys gotten in a car accident? You're like, holy shit, if that, you're like, like if I didn't get in that car accident, I maybe wouldn't have made that date that might have been awful, or vice versa. You see a car accident and then you got somewhere else. It's just like, shift that mindset. And a lot of people don't. We're also guilty, and this is something that I practice every day with patients. I say, sit with your body, listen to your body, and it's also the same thing, sit with your mind. And I mean, you're just sitting there isn't going to get shit done, but you have to sit there for a minute, listen to it, and then act on it. Don't, you have to have that mindset. You have to listen, like, is there a sign coming in that all signs point go? If so, then do it. And if you're having a hesitation, then maybe that's not quite right yet. So it's like, just sit and listen for a minute, and you will get a sign from the universe. You just have to have your ears open first.
I do think things start aligning. Like you're saying, if you grab onto that thing you're good at and you love it, and you're going to be good at it if you love it, and vice versa. I think things do start aligning, and you see those synchronicities, and not like you're never going to have challenges again. Like you have to work and you have to push, obviously, but I think there's that, you find that flow when it's something that you're really passionate about.
The internal me is freaking out because I want everyone to have a question or an opportunity, but I also want to give our vendors an opportunity to, have people mingle with them. So we are going to wrap it here. But if you have a dire burning question, our panel is not going anywhere. Hopefully they're going to mingle. If you have a question, feel free to ask them. And we will be getting, if you signed up for attending or are a vendor, we will get all of their information out to you so that you know where to contact them if you have a question, or if you want to grab coffee with them and treat them to a network. Don't feel like this is the end of the conversation. This is just the beginning of the conversation, especially if you connected with one of them on a personal level. I just apologize. I just want to make sure that everyone gets their opportunity over there. So feel free. stalk your person up here. If you're like, oh my God, I really just need to ask this before I leave these doors. Otherwise, grab some more wine with Hallie, grab some treats from Michelle, and then do whatever else is in there with our other amazing vendors, and connect with someone who you do not know. That's my biggest thing that I love at these events. If you're an introvert, I know it's kind of scary, but maybe introduce yourself to someone you don't know. That is why we do these events, and that is why I love people coming here. I am an extrovert, surprise. But these are those events where a lot of people get that anxiety and are afraid to meet someone, but this is that space that we are creating for you to feel comfortable and safe to do that. So I challenge you, if you are an introvert, to do that tonight. If you don't, I will not know. So no stress there regardless. But otherwise, I want to thank our amazing panel, our amazing Sarah, for leading this discussion. Thank you guys so much for agreeing to do this. Like I said, this conversation is not over with them. So
What's the name of your podcast?
I'm going to switch to Martinis and Pipe Dreams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Good story behind that.
Awesome. So feel free, do whatever you want, and I will not be talking the rest of the night. So have fun, and thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely.